Hey, it's Zach Folsom, Realtor here, and I just wanted to share with you guys a quick DIY way to transform an extra room in your house into a really nice looking industrial closet. I notice with a lot of first-time home buyers that they don't really get the closet space that they want. This is a really good way to take industrial pipe, really transform a space, and make a usable closet space. My design process started off with measuring the space. I found my wall length to be about 110 inches and started figuring out what I wanted to put in my closets. I did run into a couple of design flaws by not accounting for the extra space with the spacers, but I was able to make it work. I knew I needed a lot of hanging space for my suits and dress shirts. I also knew I wanted to build a tie rack for my big tie collection. I sketched a couple different designs and highly suggest doing this on a whiteboard. Then I copied it to a piece of paper. With my final design, I started counting the pieces that I would need and found the easiest way was to do each standing pole. They are all incredibly similar, and I took notes of everything that I needed from each standing pole and ordered them through a really cool site called Supply House. They were able to ship my entire order for free, and it took less than 2 days for them to get everything delivered to my home. I'd highly recommend using this company again. The total for everything that I bought was a little over $300. I did get some extra pieces and didn't end up using everything, but it was still about 50% cheaper than going to the home goods store. So I would really highly recommend using this company. All the cleaning supplies ended up costing right around $20, and the paste looks like it would be great for other household projects. I did have a lot left over. After everything came, there was a really grueling time of cleaning all the pipes, but thanks to a cool video by Homemade Modern, linked below, I used his research to clean the pipes with some mineral spirits, gloves, and steel wool. I found the easiest way to clean them was to hold on to one end and then put the other end against the ground and try to run the wool over an area until the color changed. Currently about 2.5 hours into cleaning everything here, and wanted to give you a quick look at my gloves. This is my left-handed glove. I think it's because at the top of the pipe, this section's really coarse, right where the connector goes, and I think I was gripping too hard with my left hand, and it just completely separated. I switched over to this yellow Hardy glove, which seems to be holding up a little bit better, and I've also been holding the pipe with my thumb and pointer finger right below, and then cleaning the pipe below like that, and then just switching over when I've been doing it, just so that way the gloves don't rip anymore. Right hand glove, which I'm still using, the top of the pointer finger ripped off. So if you are doing this yourself at home, I highly recommend not touching the thread, so that way you're not going to rip your gloves as much. After everything was cleaned, I put some Minwax Natural finishing paste on it with some tack cloths that put the finish on really nice. It got rid of some of the little bit of extra black grease on the pipes and made sure that they'd be safe for my clothes. Once everything was cleaned, I sorted it into all the parts that I purchased just to make everything easier. 10 2-inch pieces, 8 3-inch pieces, 6 4-inch pieces, 6 8-inch pieces, 18 10-inch pieces, 34 12-inch pieces, 4 18-inch pieces, 4 24-inch pieces, 3 36-inch pieces, and 1 48-inch pipe, 40 flanges, 30 T-connectors, 6 90-degree bends, and 1 normal extender. After this, I started assembling the stand-up unit, which surprisingly didn't take that long. I started by connecting a 12-inch piece to a T-connector and a floor flange. After I got the 12-inch piece connected, I connected another 12-inch piece with the floor flange to the back and added a 10-inch piece for the shelves to the T-connectors. It was a really repetitive process, but it was a lot more fun than cleaning the pipes. After this, I started working on the connecting pipes for the hanging rods. This consisted of a 2-inch pipe, a T-connector, and an 8-inch pipe with a flange on it. I originally bought 4-inch and 8-inch pipes, but didn't account for the 2 inches that the T-connector and the flange would add in the length. If you're doing this project at home, just make sure that you measure the length minus 2 inches for the T-connector. I added 18 and 24-inch pipes. I did a similar support for the top pipes But if you don't want the closet to be this tall, you can always modify the length. Every standard closet has about 36 inches between the top and the bottom hanging rods, so this was pretty standard. After this, I had the hard part of connecting each section together. This was much harder than I was expecting, and the pipes needed to be lined up perfectly in order for the T-connectors to fit in. Then I put the stand right up. Since I had old plaster walls and it would be almost impossible to line everything up perfectly with the studs, I got drywall anchors and some standard drywall screws to blend in with the flanges. To make sure everything was level, I used a really long level and checked both sides and the front, and proceeded to mark all the openings in Sharpie. This made it really easy to line everything back up and make sure it was in the same spot and still level. After this, I drilled into the wall and then put the drywall anchor in. Once I fastened the right side to the wall, I had to connect the two middle parts together with my tie rack. I disassembled the middle part of the tie rack and attached it to the right side of my middle section. I found pulling it away from the wall was a lot easier, and in the future I would assemble it without attaching it to the wall first. The tie rack didn't go together like I planned, but it was the centerpiece of the project, so I wanted to figure out a way to make it work. I didn't consider the fact that you can't screw things in parallel lines, so after a few attempts I decided to get some cheap bolts and cut the heads off. I tried to use a regular metal cutting saw, but that took way too long, so I brought it over to a friend and got the heads cut off with a Sawzall. I began by sticking the metal bolts through all the pieces so that way they'd be in a parallel line. After I got that all set up, I went through the process of attaching it to the tie rack itself. It was kind of difficult because the bolts had to go in, and again, it was easier to move everything away from the wall. But I was able to get it at an angle and slide everything in there so that way the metal bolts would hold everything in place. After all this was done, I just drilled some more pilot holes, inserted drywall anchors, and then screwed the unit into the wall. I wasn't able to put in all the tall parts that I wanted, so I ended up just getting rid of the leftmost rod from my plan. I didn't end up screwing in the bottom flanges because the pipes felt strong and it saved me from ever having to fill in the flooring. I tested it by putting some suits up and it worked perfectly. After this, I got some 10-inch boards from my local home goods store and tried to find some that were a little beat up to get a raw industrial look. I made sure to measure each gap and add additional length for the undermount connectors. And then proceeded to mark and cut all of these on a miter saw, but you could use a handsaw if you wanted to. I sanded the side where the cut wasn't perfect and then brought them upstairs to put some finish on them. I made sure to test the polyacrylic on a little bit of wood first, and after it looked good, I started to put it on all the tops inside. I always like to do a thin coat first so it soaks into the wood, and then you can put a thicker coat on later. I then proceeded to sand everything with 400 grit paper to make sure it was extra smooth and reapplied poly on top. After this, I just put the boards on top of the sections, attached the undermount screws, and finished putting all my clothes away. The finished product's awesome, and I couldn't really be happier with how it turned out. All in all, it cost about $400 after everything was done, which I think was better seeing that most of the closet mounting systems that I saw from IKEA and local home goods stores were over $1,000. It did take a little bit of time, about 7 hours, so if you are looking to do this project yourself, just make sure that you budget a lot of time for it. If you're interested in finding some other DIY videos or getting updates on local real estate, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, follow me on Facebook, or reach out. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have, and I look forward to talking to you all soon.